Hey, Granddad. So, as promised, here is a YouTube video of one of my personal essays that I've written. I just wanted to share them with you, but I didn't want you to get a headache from straining to read. So, here we go. This one is called The Crystal Wishing Well. My mother ran a Hallmark store, and I stayed there some afternoons in my childhood. Things might be too chaotic at the shop for her to run me home after school pickup. I'd stay out of the adults' way, read in my mom's office, or subtly sell other children on toys in the kids' corner. There was a beautiful mural emerging from a fern green wall. It was a giant oak tree with all kinds of forest life in and around it. In the trunk was a small opening, a tiny little cave-like playroom. This was my realm. My great-uncle Jerry was an unassuming man, with shoulders that had been permanently beaten down by life. They slunched with him, as though he was apologizing, even for the space his slight frame took up. His youngest daughter, Jessica, had leukemia as a child. By all accounts, she was an angelic little girl who bore her pain as well as anyone could be expected to suffer. She died around age 15. My mother had been very close to her, and it broke her heart that we lost her. My name was very merely Jessica. Nearly 2 decades after Jessica died, Uncle Jerry came to my mom's store. I'd heard about Uncle Jerry, about how hard they all tried to make Jessica's short life happy and comfortable. I heard that there were medical bills and he had no way to pay them all. I heard that his marriage was strained from the body blow of losing a child after a long illness. And so I stepped out of the kids' corner play cave to see what I thought of this man. He had wrinkles, deeper than I expected. But then again, I was only 8 and he was, well, old. His hair was gray. Again, expected when someone reached the ripe old age of 55. His eyes were sad, which made me sad. But when he saw me, he smiled, and I noticed that there was a sort of warm honey brown in them, just like my mom had in her eyes. They were nice eyes, I thought, even if they were sad. This made me brave enough to introduce myself. In the way of children, I decided I liked Uncle Jerry very much and decided to do him the favor of showing him around the shop. I was very proud of my mom's store, so I told him all about the sections and admonished him to be careful around the blown glass and the porcelain figurines. He took the whole tour in stride, sometimes tilting his head and looking at me, sad again. I took him by the hand and toted him around the entire place. I explained the kids' corner and why it was a necessary part of the layout for the most effective way to allow parents to shop. He took it all in and asked me a simple question. Of everything in the whole shop, what did I think was the prettiest? What did I like the most? I had to think about that for a minute. I wasn't sure why he asked or who he might be getting a gift for, so I couldn't tell him the best thing for that person specifically, which was a skill I was already developing. I simply had to tell him my favorite thing in the whole store. No one had asked me that before. I took him back to the lead crystal. There was the most beautiful little wishing well I'd ever seen. It was complete with a gold-plated handle that really turned. There were crystal roses latticing up crystal bricks and a crystal bluebird of happiness on a crystal roof. It was like it was plucked from some fairy tale world. Too beautiful to believe it could be real. When I went to sleep, I thought about it. But every day, when I saw it up close, it was even more beautiful than I remembered. Uncle Jerry looked at it and asked what I liked about it. I gushed for a good solid 5 minutes. I was so excited to share my love of the well with someone, and I could tell by the way he tilted his head that he was really listening. He said I had very good reasons for loving it, and that he thought it was very pretty too. We went on to talk of other things, and eventually my mom came in, and they decided to talk about grown-up stuff. So I hugged him, told him I was happy to meet him. I hadn't remembered him from when I met him when I was a little kid. And I went off back to the kids' corner. When I went into my room that night, there on the dresser was the wishing well. I ran and asked my mom and dad what had happened. How had it gotten there? They said Uncle Jerry had bought it for me as a present for taking such good care of him and showing him around the store. I was shocked, but I didn't ask him for a present, I promise. I thought of the medical bills I had heard about. I didn't want to take up his money. I hoped he hadn't thought I was being a greedy little girl, wanting expensive presents, even if they were as enchanting as the wishing well. My wishing well. You made him happy. He said you reminded him so much of his little girl that he wanted to make you happy, since she isn't here for him to give presents to anymore. So in a way, helping you felt like making her happy too, my mom explained. I looked to Dad for reassurance. You did a good thing today, he agreed. But I just showed him things. I wasn't trying to get presents. Honey, you're so special that sometimes people see that and it makes their day better, he said. All you had to do was be yourself. Your uncle loves you very much. Don't worry about him getting you the wishing well. Look at it and remember that just by being yourself and being kind, that makes its own rewards, will you? Looking back, I think if I were given a box of lost things, this is the first thing I would look for. It was so prized. Even after a cat knocked it off the dresser and it lost its tiny golden handle, I adored it. As I became ill, my inclination to go off on flights of fancy, to romanticize escaping to some emerald forest with a dragon and a wishing well, were all ramping up. Reality was proving disappointing, and I knew my Uncle Jerry understood what that was like. But that well, it was a symbol that out of bad things, good could prosper. That wishing well was never recovered after we moved away from my childhood home. I had to step into adulthood without its comfort, throwing tiny sparks of rainbows around my room through the prism of the glass, linking me to both my youthful innocence and the unassuming man with hunched shoulders and kind eyes who wandered into and out of my life on a dreary April afternoon. And that is the Crystal Wishing Well. I hope you enjoyed it. I was just speaking with a friend and they mentioned a box of lost things, and I took a while to think about it. Like, it really took a minute, but eventually I figured out it would be the wishing well. I have a big long list because I lose stuff, but that's right at the top. So anyway, I love you, Granddad. Bye.